Our next guest is our other New Hampshire congressperson, Congressman Pappas of the City 1.
Well, good evening, Cheshire County Democrats. It's a real honor to be with you all here tonight. I want to echo what so many have observed. This crowd is huge. This is a big lift for all of us as we think about what we can do to take our country back. And I just want to thank Kathy, Mohammed, the entire team at the Cheshire County Democrats. This is a successful event, and let's work to keep this momentum going. I want to thank, we can clap once again for that. Thank you for all those efforts. I want to thank my amazing colleague, Maggie Goodlander. It is a true honor to be able to represent the entire state of New Hampshire, just the two of us in the House of Representatives. She is fierce, she's feisty, she's brilliant, as you know. She is by far the most effective new member of Congress that I have ever seen, and I'm grateful to have her as a partner. She's going to continue to do great things and meet the moment for the people of this state. So let's give Maggie another round of applause for tonight. Thanks for your leadership. It's making a difference. And to the person we like to call the third House member from New Hampshire, our friend Ro Khanna, welcome back to New Hampshire. And look, he not only talks the talk about the Granite State and what this state is all about in terms of our political culture, but he walks the walk. He shows up. He understands the value that New Hampshire adds in terms of our conversations to the future and the trajectory of our democracy. And so, Ro, you've always had New Hampshire's back. Thank you for doing that. And thanks for showing up here again and for providing that leadership that we need at this critical moment for our country. It's great to see you. So look, this summer, this August, as we've been in recess from Congress, Maggie and I have had the good fortune to travel around the entire state of New Hampshire, to meet people where they are, and to recharge our batteries for the fights that are just around the corner. And you meet people, you hear their personal stories. It reminds you why we all do this. I think about the moms and parents that I've met over the last few weeks as we talked about back to school costs being so high right now, families that are just struggling to afford the basic necessities to give their kids a good start this fall. I think about the business owners that are being crushed right now by the tariffs from the Trump administration that are creating chaos and raising prices for them and for their customers. I think about affordable housing, which is such an important topic in all corners of New Hampshire, especially southwestern New Hampshire. But as we think about young people who don't know if they're going to be able to dream big and think about home ownership, people that are struggling to stay in their homes right now, those are the kinds of folks that we want to continue to fight for. But at this moment, we've got a White House and a MAGA Congress that's not thinking about people around their kitchen tables and in their living rooms in communities like ours. They're only thinking about the big wigs and the big corporate CEOs in boardrooms across this country. That's who they're serving. So in every action or inaction from this administration, we're seeing steps that's unwinding our democracy and taking us in a dangerous direction. You heard about this big, ugly bill. New Hampshire is going to continue to see the direct impacts from this bill in terms of disinvestment in health care, especially in rural areas, kicking 47,000 people off of Medicaid in the state of New Hampshire, taking away food from hungry families, including the 10% of folks in our state that struggle with food insecurity. We're talking about an administration that's doing all this so that they can finance big tax breaks for billionaires like Elon Musk and the biggest corporations. They're pushing 19th century economic strategies that are jacking up the cost of building materials and housing and food and energy. They don't give a damn about the long-standing economic inequities that have existed for decades and have grown in this country, or about making our economy fairer or less expensive. And they certainly don't think that they have to listen to you. We see that in our colleagues who heard the American people loudly and clearly as we were considering that big, ugly bill, but decided not to listen to the American people. And think about Trump's own words and his actions, where he muses about being a dictator. That's certainly how he's acting and what he's saying. But let's be clear. Here in the state of New Hampshire, we believe in accountable government. We believe in fairness, in individual freedom, in a democracy by the people. We don't do dictators in the state of New Hampshire, not now and not ever. So like you, I'm anxious, I'm angry for the future of this country and the direction that we're headed in. And this fall, as so many have said, and so many have stepped up to the plate to run, from Jay to members of the city council here in Keene, folks that are working to take their communities back, thank you for doing that. We all have a role to play. getting involved in local committees, continuing to speak out, calling our offices, writing letters to the editor, posting on social media, that all matters and is making a difference right now. We're taking Trump's numbers down, if you've noticed. He's one of the most historically unpopular presidents. He's unpopular on issues that he won on last fall, including the economy and immigration. So that work you're doing is making an incredible difference. Now, being off the sidelines is one of the reasons why I'm running for the United States Senate next year, to continue the great work that Jeanne Shaheen's doing on behalf of the people of New Hampshire. And I've stepped up because New Hampshire needs a senator who understands this state and who has a track record of effectively standing up against extreme politicians, the MAGA movement, and Donald Trump. We'll be hard-pressed to be able to effectively do that if we don't take back the United States Senate, and there's no way we're taking back the United States Senate if we don't keep New Hampshire's Senate seat blue. So New Hampshire's been a state I've always called home. I've run a small business here, and I've taken on big fights during my time in public office. I was an executive counselor like Karen over 10 years ago, and when I ran and won for the executive council, I restored funding to Planned Parenthood. I was the deciding vote to implement Medicaid expansion. I led investments in infrastructure and renewable energy, and I was the deciding vote to implement Medicaid expansion in New Hampshire. And since being a part of the class of 2018 that took back the majority in Congress during the first Trump administration, I've led efforts to get big money out of politics. I've worked to ban stock trading by members of Congress, and I've taken on corporate special interests from big pharma to big oil. I've stood up to political extremists who want to take away the right to choose and the freedom to marry in this country. I fought for investments in workers in the middle class, from universal pre-K to childcare to strong public schools. And I've never shrunk from my responsibilities, whether that's the responsibility I have directly to the constituents whom I represent, whether that's to the veterans who have honorably served our great nation, or whether that's to the Constitution and the rule of law. So those are the fights that I'm prepared to continue as your next United States Senator. Now, we've got some other people running on the Republican side who are approaching this entirely differently. I don't know if you've heard of Scott Brown. Remember Scott Brown? He's back. He's running again. We also have Dan Innes who's running. And each and every day, they're falling all over each other to see who can be the most MAGA candidate possible. They're auditioning for Donald Trump's support and his complete and total endorsement. And so along the way, they're embracing the high tariffs, the gutting of rural health care and Medicaid, and they're turning their backs on working people and the promise of America at every turn. It's clear that their dear leader, Donald Trump, will always come first. But the people of New Hampshire deserve so much more from our next United States Senator. Fact is, Republicans know that Donald Trump's poll numbers are bad. They know that we just won another important special election in Iowa last week by flipping a Republican district. And what are they doing about it? They're not moderating their message. They're not retooling or putting distance between themselves and Donald Trump. They're trying to rig the maps. You see what they're doing in Texas and Republican-led states across the country. It's sick. And it's getting at the core of what our democracy should be all about. Government of, by, and for the people. And Democrats have to continue to stand up and fight back, from city halls to state houses to the halls of Congress. And we should never be fighting with one hand tied behind our backs when our country and our future depend on it. So thank you for being in the arena. I would be honored to earn your trust and support, but I hope to continue to meet you in your communities, to learn from you, to listen with you, and work together to build a movement that's going to put our state and our country on the right path for the future. You know, politics should be about making a difference in people's lives and getting things done. And at this moment, it is a gut check moment for our democracy in the future. But I know something about this room and folks across our state. Granite Staters don't give in. We don't back down. And together with resolve, with grit, with determination, we're going to embrace a future that's fairer, a society that's stronger, an economy with endless opportunity that delivers for each and every person across our state, regardless of who they are. So let's get out there and do this work. Let's have some optimism and some fun in doing it. Let's take our country back, and let's win in 2025 and in 2026. Thank you very much, Cheshire County Democrats. It's great to be with you.